And I see it's 6:03. How about 6:05 and we'll start?
That'll work fine.
Okay. So we have a few more coming in. If you're just joining us, John Black is our technical person today, and you will be on mute. So we're waiting maybe just one more minute and we will get started, okay?
So Betty, I am good to go whenever you are. I'll continue to add people as they join.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see many familiar faces. I am Dr. Betty Olinger, and I'm a member of the Richmond, Madison County NAACP chapter. And we have several people on the Zoom this evening. We're hoping that more will join us. And as is indicated, you'll be on mute to avoid extra sounds out there for all of us. So we'll have better quality audio. And at this time, I would like to thank President Reverend Mitch Brown for spearheading this COVID vaccine meeting. In addition, Gladys Parks for advertising, certainly John Nanny Black, and many others from our organization that has made this presentation possible tonight. You know, as we know, COVID has disproportionately affected the Black community members. In addition, we as a people are getting the vaccine at a much reduced rate. Only, if I'm not mistaken, only about 5% of the vaccines have been given to persons of color here in Kentucky. Now, we're pleased tonight to have Dr. Jay Gilliam with us this evening. Dr. Gilliam received his undergraduate degree from Kentucky State University, Go Breds. He received his MD from the University of Kentucky, Go Cats. He completed his residency in internal medicine and pediatrics at Wayne State University and Detroit Medical Center. He is currently board certified in both internal medicine and pediatrics. He works at Baptist Health Outpatient Internal Medicine and Pediatric Clinics in Brandon Crossing in Lexington. Dr. Gilliam is very active in community activities, including what we've asked him to discuss with us this evening, COVID-19 healthcare disparities and the vaccine. We've had a number of questions that have come in and have sent most of those to Dr. Gilliam. At this time, it is my pleasure to present to you Dr. Jay Gilliam. The platform is yours, Dr. Gilliam.
Yeah, you may need to unmute. There you go.
There you go. Can y'all hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you all so much for having me this evening. And I'm excited because it's a passion after my own heart to teach medicine, but also put it in layman's terms, and also something as important as COVID-19 and as it relates to us as African Americans, but humanity and just in general. So for about 15 minutes, just to set the stage, I do want to do a small presentation before we go into the questions, and I have plenty of time to answer those questions here. But one thing that I want you to recognize from this presentation is have a basic concept of the vaccines itself, COVID-19, and just a little bit of history what's got us to this point. But one thing I always want you to remember, it's all about the protein, okay? If there's anything you come away with this, it's all about the protein. Mama said you better eat your food, your protein. It's all about the protein, okay? And so just for a moment, you know, I'm a pediatrician, okay? And so I do want to paint the stage. I do want to introduce you to Rocco, the albino tiger. So bear with me. You're 10 years old. You can shut your eyes if you want to. You're at the circus. Dad's gotten you your cotton candy, your soda pop. The lights go dark, but you're there to see Rocco, the albino tiger. And if you can imagine, if you can, the tiger comes out all white, just beautiful white with the black stripes on it. And the ringleader comes in there, cracks the whip. Rocco stands up on his feet. Rocco greets the crowd. Rocco puts on a chef's hat, pretends that he's making lunch, whatever it may be. And everybody gets a laugh. You're 10 years old, right? Okay, so the next following year, you're 11, you're 12. So each year, Rocco is just a big attraction, okay? Because it's amazing what we've gotten Rocco to do. It's just simply amazing, right? So let's fast forward to when you're 18 years old. Your mom says, you know what, let's go to the circus. You're like, nah, Mom, I'm too old for that. But you know, deep in your heart, you want to see who? Rocco, right? So when you go to the circus, you know you're anticipating. The lights go down. You know, it never gets old. But something's different about this night. Rocco's just not himself, or he's just different. So the ringleader comes out there, cracks the whip, and Rocco doesn't do anything. He looks kind of disturbed, right? All these different things, and then all of a sudden, the crowd gasps because Rocco has turned and attacked the trainer. Oh my gosh, everybody's frantic. I can't believe, everybody's upset. Well, how could that happen? Okay. So the immune system is kind of like Rocco because we can train it. We can make it do magnificent things, but at the end of the day, it's still a tiger. The immune system is still the immune system, okay? And so why do I say that? Prime example, somebody may be listening today that may be a recipient of a donor heart or a lung transplant or a bone marrow transplant. But anybody who's received an organ transplant, it's a good thing, right? Right? I mean, it saves lives. But what medicine do those patients have to have? They have to have what? Immunosuppressants. Well, why do you have to suppress the immune system? I mean, this is a good thing. I mean, certainly the immune system will work with us, right? But at the end of the day, the immune system is still an immune system. It still does what it's supposed to do, to recognize protein and react. Just like Rocco, he's a beautiful, magnificent creature. He holds something beautiful, but it's still a tiger. So I want to share that just in going into the purpose of why do we vaccinate? Why do we give vaccines? Okay. And so vaccines, since the inception of vaccine history, has always been an intrusive type of character with it, okay? And so the purpose of a vaccine is to prevent you from getting a disease, and namely a disease that probably could kill you, right? I mean, we don't just give vaccines for the fun of it, or just to decrease certain infectious disease out there, but there's got to be something about this infectious disease, COVID-19, that is detrimental to us, okay? And so why do I share that? So I'm going to time travel just a little bit, go back and forth, go back to the 1700s, 1800s, currently back to, so you can illustrate the point. So let's jump back to 1720s, okay? And let's just say your child is 9 years old and comes down with a fever of 103, vomiting, diarrhea, and starts developing a rash. You take them to the local doctor and they don't know what to do. Within 24 hours, your child starts to develop blisters in the mouth and these little pustules, little pox, okay? Next thing you know, within the next 24 hours, he's got it all over his skin. Next 48 hours, these pustules are popping open full of pus, fever. He's breathing very shallow. He's not alert. He's dying right before your eyes. Blood, pus, all coming out of the skin, and eventually dies. Why do I say that? Because that's smallpox, okay? Smallpox during that era was very detrimental and wiped out nearly almost 200 to 300 million people just within a year span, okay? Good portion of the global population. So why do I say that? Because at that time, if you survived an infectious disease, it was thought that that God had favored on you, okay? But we know that's not how diseases work, okay? We know about the immune system. But if you didn't survive, you must have did something wrong in your spiritual life, or you must have had sin. Prime example, leprosy. We hear about that in the Bible, right? If you had leper, you were shunned away. They had colonies for lepers, okay? If you had leprosy, you had to do what? You had to show yourself before the priest to get back in the graces with the community. So the perception of disease was always tied to something celestial, something spiritual, but that wasn't the case. So then we could talk about something called variolation, okay? And variolation is a process where you take a disease and expose it to somebody with the hope of good graces that you've been living a good life, so they thought back then, and you wouldn't get sick again, okay? Now, we always hear about Mary Wortley Montagu. This is a wife of the ambassador of Edward Montagu, who was an ambassador within Europe, one of the countries in Europe. And her claim to fame was that she went to different countries and observed different cultures. But one thing she had noticed was that to prevent disease or to prevent illness, she noticed that some members would purposely expose other people to diseases for their immunity. Why is that important? Because from a Eurocentric view, I didn't know this until I read more, you always heard about Mary Wortley Montagu. So it almost looked like it was discovered by a Eurocentric process, and it's not the case. Actually, in the early 1300s, 1400s, that process was seen in China, okay? So in China culture, what they would do with somebody who had smallpox, they would actually get the scab of the person who had disease, chop it up, let it sit for 24 hours, and then they would hand it around to the community and you would snort it, okay? And so again, the problem with that is you were actually getting exposed to smallpox. So either you survived or you came down with the disease. In India, what they would do is take the scab and actually put it in rice, okay? And actually make little incisions and pricks in the skin for exposure, okay? And the same process, either you survived it and got immunity or you succumb to the disease. Africa, the same situation. They would also expose individuals by pricking the skin and exposure. Okay, so variolation was the early parts of smallpox. And so back in 1720, when they had a pandemic of smallpox, guess what? It was mandatory that everybody should have the variolation process. and henceforth people opposed to it. That was the early part of anti-vaccine or procedure with the virilation. Okay, and so it was always thought to be intrusive. My body's my body. How dare you expose me to this, and I might die. So that concept was during that era. Then came a gentleman called Edward Jenner. Okay, yeah, we know the story, and if you don't know the story, we just want to share it with you. Edward Jenner was a scientist, and father was within the farming community. And so one thing that would happen periodically during this time in the 1700s was smallpox. Smallpox was taking people out. Okay, but one thing he observed, and the story goes such as this, is the cow maidens, okay, handmaidens, the ones who were milking the cows would develop something called cowpox. Okay, bear with me. So the one thing that the handmaidens used to make fun or sing along is, we've got cowpox, but we never see smallpox, or we never get smallpox. And so the story goes that Edward found something fascinating about this. He said he did notice that those individuals who got the cowpox did not succumb to the smallpox. Is there some correlation? So he did something that was unheard of. He took the virilation process, but instead of getting smallpox and exposing to another person with smallpox, he took the cowpox pus and exposed it to an individual. Okay, and to prove his point, he took a 9-year-old child by the name of James Phipps. This is how the story goes. Okay, so he injected James with the cowpox. Okay, and let the cowpox infest in his skin. But then weeks later, he injected little James straight up with smallpox. And guess what happened to James? He didn't get sick. He actually survived. And so Edward actually proposed this. If you get exposed to cowpox, you will not come down with smallpox. Okay, and so the term immunis, okay, Latin for exempt, came about that time. Immunity. You have immunity. You've been exempt from the sickness. But there's a problem with that, because what you're doing is you're banking on something benign, something innocent like cowpox, to defend something horrendous like smallpox. That doesn't work today, right? If you come in for a COVID-19 vaccine, I can't give you a flu shot to say that it'll protect you against COVID-19, or I can't give you a measles shot and say it'll protect against hepatitis or hepatitis. It's got to be specific, right? So in comes a gentleman by the name of Louis Pasteur, who said, you know what? That's a nice trick, Mr. Jenner, but that only works for smallpox. What about anthrax? What about rabies? So what Louis did, he actually came up with the formula, or at least the postulate thinking, if I could somehow weaken or kill the bacteria or virus, then expose it to somebody, somehow I can get them immunity. And so to prove his point, during that time, there was no rabies shots for wild dogs. If you got bit by a dog from rabies, you were going to die. And even to this day, if you do not get treated for rabies, it's 100% fatality. Okay. So what he did was he took the saliva of a rabid dog, heat it, treat it, and he had to work with it, because if you heat it too much, you kill the virus. If you don't heat it enough, it's a full-blown virus and you get the disease. Okay. And so the story goes with Louis Pasteur is that there was a young boy who got bit by a rabid dog. And so the mother had heard about Louis Pasteur. And so she begged and pleaded for him to try this vaccination on her son. At this point, she had nothing to lose. Her son was dying. And so what he did was he took a weakened virus or rabies, exposed it to the young man, over a series of shots or immunizations, so to speak, and the boy lived. And so why do I share that? Because you see the progression of where the science has gotten to where we are today, but you see how intrusive vaccines can appear. But remember, it's all about the protein. So when we make vaccines, or when vaccines are made, there's 4 primary ways that they're made. Okay, I'm just going to give you examples. I'm going to shoot the names of these, and you're going to know what they are. Okay, so again, the immune system, all it cares about is the protein. So when I have a live attenuated, that's a live virus or bacteria, attenuated means that it's weakened. Okay, through different processes that the culture goes through, it's live, but it's weakened. That's your measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox shots. If you have kids, they probably had those shots, obviously. Okay, but I want the live virus to go to your body, but I don't want it to cause the disease. I want your body to see the protein so it can build up immunity. Okay. Then there's the other process of killing the virus or bacteria. It's called a kill vaccine. Again, you take the bacteria or virus, kill it, but you don't want to destroy the protein, because what? Your body depends on that to see the protein to build up what we call antibodies. Okay. And examples of that is inactivated polio. Okay. Then there's another vaccine called subunit. Basically what that is taking the DNA sequence or the DNA identity of the bacteria or virus that we're trying to inoculate against or protect against, take that DNA, incorporate it into cell cultures, okay, or the cell body yourself, and then your own body produces that protein on the surface, so that it's not the disease, but it's the actual surface protein of the bad guy we're trying to defend. Does that make sense? Okay. And then last one is called the subunit or conjugated. This is the one that we have. Prevnar is the vaccine that's currently that has that process, and Haemophilus influenza B, HIB. Okay. And normally we give these during our childhood years. Okay. And the way that it's conjugated, the way that I put an example is, you put a protein, but the immune system looks at it and says, yeah, whatever, I'm not too impressed. Yeah. It's kind of like having a salad, but if I put a chocolate cake next to it, oh yeah, it's looking pretty good. That's a conjugated vaccine. Okay. So that's been the main stable when it comes to vaccines. But then comes this thing called messenger RNA. Oh, come on. You guys know what I'm talking about. Everybody's been reading about it. mRNA, messenger RNA, Operation Warp Speed. Wait a minute. What's going on? Messenger RNA. I can't believe they're doing this, man. They've only done this for about a year. Wrong. Messenger RNA, okay, basically is the protein that our cells produce in order to communicate within the cell to produce a protein. It's a telegram, okay? And so to illustrate that purpose, hope y'all can see this. This is my cell. Here's my nucleus. And in here are what we call ribosomes, okay? Follow me, just follow me with this, okay? So the messenger RNA was first discovered in 1961. A few years before that, 1952, Watson and Crick, yeah, we know the scientists, discovered DNA. You know what DNA is, right? We're all made up of DNA, right? That is our identity. That is the very thing that makes us who we are. But in order for the DNA that's in the nucleus and the ribosomes, which is the printing process to produce the protein, there's space. And in between that space, you got to have communication. That's where the messenger RNA comes in, okay? So that was discovered in 1961. 1976 is actually the science where they're trying to do the messenger RNA to make specific proteins for certain diseases. Why do I share that? Ladies and gentlemen, messenger RNA technology is greater than 30 years old. I say that because there's a lot of myths going around saying this is they just came up with this stuff. No, it's 30 years old. Okay. And so now you fast forward to the current times to make a messenger RNA vaccine. Okay. This is how messenger RNA vaccine works. Perfect analogy. I promise y'all not going to forget this. Okay. So I want everybody to go to their house. Okay. Picture it, if you will, in your own house. You got a few furniture in there, but in your dining room, you have a laptop computer, and a few feet away, you have a printer. Okay, that's it. But your house is the cell. Okay, we're all in the same neighborhood. It's a gated community. How about that? There's only one way in and one way out. Okay, so why do I say that? Because in order to get to the gated community, you have to be allowed in, or there has to be some type of introduction. So, everybody's in their house, right? You got your computer and you have your printer. Now the mailman comes. That's the vaccine. He goes along the streets. That's the blood vessels getting to the cells, your house. He's got something from Amazon Prime. This is the nanoparticle that contains the messenger RNA. Not the messenger RNA that's normally in the cells, we produced it. And what do we put in that package? It's a genetic sequence. It is the code for a specific protein, okay? You've probably been hearing about spike proteins, right? Spike proteins on the coronavirus. Spike proteins, what is that? It's the protein that surrounds the virus, but it is this protein that binds to what we call an ACE receptor on our tissues, the lungs, the digestive tract, the heart, okay? Why do I say that? Because that's the only way that the virus can get in. But we're going to put an all points bulletin to the neighborhood that, hey, look, something's about to go down. Why do I say that? So the nanoparticles are made up of nothing but phospholipids, okay? It's fat, basically, a fat package. So what I'm going to do is put the messenger RNA in the package and seal it. As the mailman goes to each and everybody's mailbox, that is the messenger RNA going to the cell. You go out to the mailbox, retrieve the messenger RNA, internalize it into your house. Now that's the messenger RNA going into your cell. Now, you open up the package and you see the instructions. Honey, what is this? It looks like a message. What does it say? I don't know. Put it to the printer. You put it to the printer and this bad boy comes out. It's the protein. But the messenger RNA message says this message will self-destruct in 10 seconds. Why do I say that? Because there's a myth that the messenger RNA affects your DNA. Notice when you went to go pick up the messenger RNA, you sent it straight to the printer. You did nothing with your hard drive. Your hard drive is never affected by the messenger RNA. So what you do is you follow instructions. It says, go ahead and put this on your door, on your outside. So what happens to the messenger RNA in the cells, it gets internalized, it goes to the printing process. Notice it didn't do anything to your hard drive. It just stayed out to the printing process and it made the protein. And so you put it on the outside, okay? So just like the cells put it on the outside, you were at your house and you were told to put the protein where? On the outside. Now you guys go to sleep. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's police officers, if I got any law enforcement, you follow this, who patrol the neighborhood. And as they're patrolling, their job is to look for what? Protein. but their job is to look for protein that's either for us or against us. In other words, the protein better be self, right? Because that's the immune system. It's the police officers of the body, okay? So what the immune system does, it goes around and looks for self versus non-self. So they come up to your house, your cell, they come up to your house and they see this red protein. Hey, slow down. Whoa. Hey, Doc, what's that? Never seen it before. Hey, we got to call it in. All right, let's go call it in. So what the immune system does, it makes a carbon copy, an anti-carbon copy, or at least an antibody to it. Because what they want to make sure is if we see this bad boy again, we have to react, okay? So why is that important? Because myth number 3, the COVID-19 shot contains COVID-19, the virus. No, none of this process has contained anything biological. It's all been played on your own body's ability to produce protein. Only thing we're using is the printing process. That's it. So you got the spike protein on the surface of your cells. Now your immune system has seen it and built antibodies to it, just in case you should get infected. So now, bear with me. I was supposed to glue this on, but it didn't stick. Hey. So here comes coronavirus coming in. He's got this on there. Oh, stop right there. Oh, whoa. Hey, easy. Start. How'd you know it was me? Because we saw this protein. That's how messenger RNA works, okay? So messenger RNA vaccines play on your body's own ability to produce proteins. But again, it's all about seeing the protein. And so once your body has antibodies to the protein, that's all that matters. Now you're protected, okay? So I just wanted to share that brief history of just looking at all the different types of vaccines, how they're made, and then everything that looks in messenger RNA right now, because currently that's the one that's emergency authorized, the Pfizer and Moderna. And according to the news, Friday is really big, y'all. Johnson & Johnson's is on deck for possibly getting a emergency authorization. So with that, that was my early presentation just with that. And I just want to go into the questions. I want to talk. Let's just go to it, ma'am. So Betty, you got the questions or?
I know I sent you several last evening. Do you want to just look at those, or do you want me to read them off? Or
if you want to just read them off, that'll be
Okay,
fine.
sure.
And then random. And if there's anything in the chats that kind of, you know.
All right, that sounds good. I know one of the things that was asked had to do with any idea about post studies and how the vaccine affects people in a long term. Of course, we don't know that yet, but anyway.
Yeah, so that's a good question, okay? And so one thing with the emergency authorization process, and just to tell you what that is, okay? So the emergency authorization process is different than the FDA approval process, okay? Basically, during the assessment of a product, pharmaceutical product or vaccine, basically the benefit has to outweigh the risk, okay? And why do I say that? Because under the emergency authorization process, it's basically saying that we have to do something because of the magnitude of this disease process that is occurring. It's not endemic, it's not epidemic, it's pan. 14,000 souls leave this planet daily across the globe because of COVID-19, okay? Why do I say that? Because the information that we have with these vaccines throughout phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and I can explain that in a little bit more detail, we only have about 3 months of data with that, okay? Just as far as in the field. But what we know is, based on the information that we have, it's safe and effective. That doesn't mean that there's going to be individuals who might not have side effects of it, okay? But that means that it's safe and effective in what it's supposed to do. Now, in regards to long-term complications, we're still gathering information. But as of right now, the findings with the COVID-19 vaccine are consistent with the data that was in the research. In other words, it's doing what it's supposed to do based on what we've seen thus far. But again, we're collecting data day by day. So will something change down the line? Possibly, I don't know. But as of right now, it looks very effective and promising at what it's supposed to do.
Okay. All right. There's a question about the vaccine and pregnancy. Someone wanted to know, is it safe for a pregnant woman to take it? And also, if as a pregnant woman, I get COVID, will my baby also get COVID?
So let's unpack that a little bit. So early on, we're talking about Moderna and Pfizer, okay?
Mhm.
During the trials, they did not have direct information on pregnancy. In other words, that was not one of the variables going in, which makes sense, right? Because when you come out with a trials, unless you specifically, but first you have to make sure it's healthy for just non-pregnant individuals, right? Okay. And so during that time, it was strongly encouraged to have the discussion with the mother to encourage them to consider getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Why is that? Because pregnant mothers who come down with COVID-19 are at higher risk of complications, preterm delivery, early delivery, and being sick and put on ventilator, okay? And so with that, they were encouraging that, okay? The American Gynecological Obstetrician Society also recommended that. High fetal maternity also recommend having that discussion. But then we came out with other data that was saying that even though pregnant women didn't start out as a variable in the research, they had about anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 women get pregnant during the studies. And so God bless these women, because they said, we're going to go ahead and take the vaccine because, I don't want to be a risk of my child. So 10,000 women basically said, we got pregnant during the trials. They were in the trials, okay? And their babies went to full term, and there was no complications or miscarriages. One. So that supports the idea that these vaccines are safe in pregnancy. The other thing that they did with research is they looked at what they call fetal anomalies. And basically what they do is they take a vaccine or medicine, expose it to an animal, okay? And they measure to see if there's any fetal effects on the birth of their babies. And none was found, both in primate, rats. I know people are like, well, wait a minute, man, we're not rats or primates. What are you talking about? But at least that's the data that we have. So as of right now, they're strongly encouraging women to consider getting the vaccine, okay? It's not FDA approved yet. None of this is FDA approved, you all, but they're strongly encouraging it. So it looks very, very, very promising. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Okay. How long, there was a question of how long after the vaccine is given, does it offer protection from the virus? Will we need to get another one? I know we've got we have two injections that are required for both Pfizer and for Moderna. Do we know anything about, and there's supposedly only one injection for Johnson & Johnson. Would we expect that, if we get my immunization, I get my second immunization in a couple of weeks. So at this time next year, will I still be protected against corona?
Right.
Oh, COVID.
So two questions to unpack that right now.
Okay.
So as of right now, the longevity or the protective antibodies from these vaccines, we still don't know. Okay, we don't, because we're collecting data as we see fit with it, or at least going on currently. So we don't have that data yet, but we do have the data stating that when you do get the vaccine, Pfizer and Moderna, okay, it's a 95% Pfizer, 94% Moderna. less likely for you to come down with symptomatic COVID-19, okay, which is very, very powerful. Okay, so, but as far as longevity, we don't know. We try to pair that up with coronavirus, okay, with what we know about coronavirus, okay, because coronavirus in itself is it's a common cold virus. And that, I think that's what's played a lot for people not taking it serious, is because there are certain strands that give us the common cold. Chances are 30% of individuals have been exposed to a coronavirus strand in their lifetime, okay? But this coronavirus, COVID-19, is coronavirus on steroids. I mean, it's mutated in such a way that it's caused the damage that we're seeing now in human bodies, okay? Why do I say that? Because typically coronavirus is a seasonal virus, right? It's a common cold. It's a winter fall virus. So the speculation is that, yeah, this may be an annual thing, but Mother Nature has put an okie doke, right? Because we got 3 strands out, resistant strands. And now the question is, how effective is the immunization going to be currently? So as of right now, we don't know, but it kind of looks like this is going to be an annual thing, you all, possibly.
Okay. All right. There's been some question about some people have gotten the information that they need to take some medicine before they go to take the COVID vaccine. What medications actually reduce the efficacy of the vaccine?
That's a good question. And again, this is data that we're getting more as we learn with it. Currently, right now, the recommendations is for you to not take any type of anti-inflammatory or fever reducing. Why is that? Because remember, it's all about the protein. The immune system has to be alert and active to react and make those antibodies. And so the concern is that if somebody takes an anti-inflammatory before administering the vaccine, there's a chance their immune system might be dampened and it won't get that full, robust response to it. Now, that being said, if an individual takes the vaccine and you do have side effects, muscle soreness, achiness, and low-grade fever, yes, by all means, please be comfortable. Take care of yourself first and go ahead and take a Tylenol or a Motrin.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think there has been a tremendous myth within our community and a fear, of taking vaccines from the government because of the fear of various things that have happened over the years, Tuskegee, all kinds of issues that have happened. So how can we help people within our community as laymen or whatever, understand that this is an important and necessary vaccine to take, and not to have, or to try to reduce that fear, so that indeed we can get more and more people signed up and taking the vaccine?
Mm-hmm. So that's a great question. And so I just want to delve into that personally, okay? I have an old saying that we will never bring down the disparities until we have full knowledge of the prescription. Mm-hmm. Okay, why do I say that? Tuskegee experiment, as atrocious as that is, that was treatment purposely being withheld. Okay, a false sense of falsehood and narrative and non-consenting. Okay, in other words, the subjects had no idea, no clue that they were being subject. For all they knew, they were being treated for bad blood and reaping the benefits of being in the Tuskegee experiment. And in that time, there was that level of trust with the government, with the medical community, only to be hurt. Okay, why do I say this? Fast forward to currently right now. Okay, but before that, I want to introduce a entity that has helped us, our community, and be transparent with that. It's the National Medical Association. You can go Google it for yourself. NMA and COVID-19 vaccine. Why do I say that? A time travel. I want to paint the picture, y'all. Okay. So AMA, the American Medical Association, okay, which was founded roughly in 1842, was a governing body that provided credentialing, authentication of individuals who were in the healthcare field. You could not be a woman, you could not be Asian, you could not be African American. You had to be a white male to be in the AMA. Okay, so that left everybody out. And if you did get good graces as an African American to be in these entities, you could even get credentialed. You could set up shop and practice, but you couldn't be credentialed. Why is that important? Because in 1892, a group of African American professionals said, we've had it. We're going to make our own. Okay. And that's always been the course in our community. We always had to make our own. HBCUs, Tuskegee Airmen, whatever it is, we had to make our own. Why is that important? Now, fast forward to today. The NMA, National Medical Association, of all African American professionals, and you don't have to be African American to join, okay? You don't, okay? But what they said at the early part of Moderna and Pfizer productivity, they said, we want in. We want to know from the get-go what's going on. Matter of fact, the objective of our 40 to 50 Black professionals, which were made up of pediatricians, internists, vaccinologists, epidemiologists, researchers, and they also had liaisons within the CDC, okay? Transparency. What we want to know, is this vaccine going to be a benefit to our community? Is there going to be any endpoints that we got to get concerned of? So why is that important? Because they were in communication with Moderna and Pfizer. And Moderna and Pfizer, obviously knowing the gravity of the situation and also being transparent and wanting to communicate and offer that, every step of the vaccine was followed by the NMA, okay? Each step. And so that was important because out of the 40,000 participants that were with Pfizer, 30,000 that were with Moderna, 10% were African American. So 4,000 and 3,000 African Americans went through this trial, okay? At the end of the data, the National Medical Association, made up of all African American professionals, came to the conclusion, and you can Google it yourself, NMA and COVID-19, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of BMI or obesity, which can affect vaccines, that's another topic. The endpoints were all the same. The subjects, the patients, the participants got that 94, 95% protection. Why is that? Because that dismantles everything. That means regardless of any eugenics or any type of biological constant that you can make, it does not matter. When you go to the line to the COVID-19 vaccine, you will see all ethnicities. You will see Hispanic, African American, Indian, regardless. This is a pandemic, you all. There is no okie dokes on this vaccine, okay, pertaining to something specific to the African American community. Why is that important? Because the scars of our past are enabling us from getting to the future, and rightfully so, because we have a right to ask those questions. That's issue number one in May. Other one is, I can say right now on Black History Month, look her up, Dr. Mackenzie McCormick, called Dr. Kizzy. This sister is so tough, man. She is an immunologist researcher. She is one of the top individuals who designed this vaccine. And if you Google her, and she's very animate about medical apartheid, disparities, and why is that? Because you have somebody of us looking over that process. It is so crucial. So taking the NMA and their findings, and you can Google it, they got everything out there. It is bringing down those disparities, okay, and showing that the outcomes are benefit. Why is that? Because we're the ones that are succumbing more to COVID-19, okay? We're the one, and it has nothing to do with your Blackness. It has nothing to do with your melanin. It has to do with the fact that our infrastructure of healthcare has not always been kind to us and allowed us to have the appropriate healthcare up to this point. Even today, there's other barriers we can go through it that allow us to have more comorbidities or disease processes that this virus plays on, okay? So I just want to share that. But I share that with you because that is so crucial. This is not the Tuskegee experiment. Treatment is not being withheld. The knowledge is out there. Read it for yourself, you know, internalize it, ask questions like you have today. I had COVID-19, and I also took both vaccines. And so I've seen the whole paradigm. So I share that with the audience to research it for themselves, but this is not Tuskegee experiment, you all. This is a pandemic that affects humanity. Don't let the scars of our past enable our access to the future, especially when the scars weren't induced by us. It's so powerful.
Yes, thank you so very much. And I'm hoping that indeed we will continue to talk with persons within our community, that will continue, that persons on this Zoom call will have an opportunity to talk with many other persons as well. And, you know, to help people understand that indeed COVID isn't playing, and we have got to be immunized against it so that we can get back to somewhat of a norm. And I guess when I talk about that norm, you know, how long after, well, let's put, how many people would have to be immunized as a general in a community before we could say what they call it herd immunity, where that can occur and that we will no longer have to wear our mask and social distancing, et cetera. Do you have any idea of the time frame? I know we don't know specific, but is there kind of a time frame out there?
Well, let's unpack that just a little bit, just so that everybody know what herd immunity is, okay? And just like a herd, cattle herd, okay? Basically what that means is that everybody or percentage of the herd has either been exposed to the offending agent, either naturally and survived, right? That's crucial, or received the immunization to build up antibodies. Why is that important? Because if the herd is protected, there may be some individuals who, I'm not going to get the vaccine, or I'm not going to do it because of this and that. You end up protecting others amongst the herd themselves. Not to mention yourself, but you protect those who don't have it. Currently, right now, the CDC and of course my guy, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the statistics is at least 60 to 70, somewhere up to 80% of the population has to have antibodies, protected antibodies, in order to see the pandemic go down tremendously, one, and to get back to some sense of normalcy, okay? And currently right now, at the rate we're going, it's a slow process, and it differs, and it differs from day to day to week, because right now, like I said, we got some resistant strands that are in the community that now play effect on that. The other thing I wanted to share is that the immunizations, the data is starting to come out there that they may also slow the progression or the transmission of it to others, but we still are collecting that data. So I encourage everybody, if you get your shot, it's not a badge of being bad and tough and away with the mask and, hey, we cannot know. You still want to wear your mask and still have social distancing. It is so crucial. So as of right now, 60 to 70, on the upwards of 80% of the population has to have some type of immunity to it, namely hopefully the vaccines, in order to go back to a concrete normal. So yeah, so it's going to be some time now.
And we're far from that 60 to 80% at this time,
We are.
because we've only had the persons who are over 70 in Kentucky. We recognize that the guidelines are different in different states, but here in Kentucky, I think it was those over 70, the healthcare workers, police officers, teachers, etc. And very soon, I think we're going to start those who are under to 65.
Yeah. I think Plan C is supposed to happen here soon. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think as we get more authorizations on these vaccines, Johnson & Johnson's is right there, you all. So I mean, and there's actually a few other ones in the neck here too. So the more availability that we have with vaccines that meet the criteria, the quicker we can get through this.
Mhm. Mhm. All right. Someone had asked about blood tests. Said that is it true you need to have blood lab tests to determine your antibody level in your system 10 days after your second vaccine dose? I hadn't heard anything about doing drawing labs after that. But
there's no recommendations on that. And the reason why that is because the body knows the difference between a natural infection and the vaccine. Okay. When they make the vaccines, they specifically target certain proteins of that virus that are going to be the named targets to neutralize it. Okay. And that's the spike protein. So in other words, if you get a natural infection with the coronavirus, not only does your body have to make antibodies to the spike protein, but there's all these other different proteins that are on the natural virus that it has to make antibodies to. And sometimes the assays that are out there that detect natural infection looks for those antibodies that makes those marks. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Versus the spike protein, and that's all this one does, the vaccine is, the antibody is directed to that. But even if you say, well, why don't they just make an assay for the spike protein? And the reason why you don't want to do that is because we still don't know what that appropriate level is, okay? Mm-hmm. So in other words, we can gauge a response, but we can't tell you if that is a protective or not. Only thing we can gauge is in the outcome, okay? And that is looking at symptomatic disease, pairing it up with antibody response, of course. But in general, the data that we've collected so far does show that there is that protection and antibody response. But as far as what the exact number is to incorporate that into a test to say, yes, it is, we still don't have that number. And so that's why it's not authorized to look into that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. One other question, and and I don't know if other people may have some additional questions in the chat. If you have other questions, please type them in. Someone was saying, well, she's going to fly out to California after her second test, spend some time with her grandbabies. And this person would have been vaccinated with both, whether it's Moderna or Pfizer. Would she still need to quarantine when she goes out to see those babies, or how long should she wait from the time of the vaccination till she would be able to be okay to see the babies?
So that's a good question. Currently, right now, you're seeing what they call booster clusters. Okay, and that's a new term right now. And actually, the CDC has actually put it out there. That if an individual, and you have to play by the rules, okay, which means if you do Pfizer, it's your first dose, second dose, 21 days apart, or your Moderna, first dose, second dose, 24 weeks apart. Once you receive those vaccines, okay, if you come in contact with somebody who has COVID-19 symptoms, you do not have to quarantine. Okay. But
Would you repeat that? If you come into contact?
if you could, because it used to be the before and after, if you came in somebody who had COVID-19, it was strongly encouraged that you self-quarantine or even get tested. But the data is showing out there that these vaccines are so effective, but you got to play by the rules. It can't be you got your first dose and then 6 weeks later you got your second dose. You got to play by the rules that it's in the data research. But they're saying that if you get both of those shots based on the protocol that the data is protected, that the data in the research, that if you came in contact with somebody, you yourself would not have to quarantine, okay? But you still have to exercise wearing masks and social distancing. And what they're seeing is individuals who you got your be careful with this though. You got your shots, 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 hey, everybody in here, 5 of us, we got our shots. Hey, we're good. It's not necessarily true, right? Because we still don't know how preventative in transmitting the virus is after you get the shots. Remember, the goal of the shots is to prevent you from going to the ICU and dying, period. And so if you could transmit, that's potential. So back to the lady's question, if she goes out and gets both vaccines based on her, based on doing the science in there, yes, she is safe to go ahead and be around other individuals. But please keep in mind, in your transit, flying there, you still have to wear a mask. You still have to wear social distancing. Even when you get to your location, you have to wear a mask and be social distancing. But you will be more protected once you go out to other individuals. But they're encouraging that everybody get vaccinated so that we can build that bubble. Because as that bubble enlarges, the herd immunity enlarges. But irregardless of your house or the big bubble, you still have to wear your mask and social distance. And if you do come down with COVID-19 symptoms, that trumps everything. You can't be said that, well, I got the shot. No, because you can still come down with COVID-19 and still have gotten the shot. Chances are it'd be a milder symptom, but you can still do that. So it's very, very tricky on how this works with the transmission after getting the shot. Does that make sense?
Okay. And I think you were saying Pfizer 21 days and Moderna 28 days. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. We do have a couple of questions in the chat box. One has to do with the vaccine and people with health issues such as Hep C, weak immune system, lung issues, etc., and the ability or the issues that might occur with those people if they take the vaccine.
Okay.
Of course, we know if they get COVID, it's even greater problem for them. But
so just to let everybody know, and this is how it happens. When the shot comes out, then comes the questions. Well, I have diabetes, sir. I have asthma. I have Hep C. I have a cancer survivor. Or wait a minute, I have scleroderma. I have rheumatoid. I have lupus. All that to say is, those type of data are going to come in subsets. Okay, as we collect, more data in the general population, we're still collecting data, and there has to be research on those other things. That being said, and you can go to the American Rheumatological Society, because they put a statement on there. Okay, and the CDC also is put on there. If you have immunosuppressant or an autoimmune, you always want to check with your doctor first to see where you are in the disease process. Okay, are you controlled? Are you in a flare? Or are you not? You have to do that. Now, topic number 2, when it comes to COVID-19, okay, those issues dealing with autoimmune and other chronic illnesses can put you at potential increased risk of complications dealing with COVID-19. That being said, the encouragement is if you do have these chronic conditions is that you do get immunized. One, to protect you in the state that you should come down with COVID-19 that could potentially put derangement or excessive stress on these other issues that you're dealing with, potentially, okay? But bottom line is you gotta talk to your doctor first. I would encourage that first, okay? Because somebody said Hep C, somebody said lupus. Well, somebody could be lupus controlled, somebody could be in a flare, somebody could be on immunosuppressant. So it's wide range, it's different. So you wanna know where you fall in that category. So please talk to your doctor first to see where you are. And if the green light is there, I encourage you to get vaccinated.
Okay, very good. Someone also asked if you would explain the nanoparticles just a little bit more.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. And I get so geeked about it because it's so fascinating. And so nanoparticles, okay, or nanoscience, basically what it is a method of delivery, okay, on a microscopic cell. And when you say nanoparticles, in comes the myth and the how can I say it? The people, the conspiracy theories, okay? Because the nanoparticles, they put microchips in there, don't they, Doc? No, you've been watching too much sci-fi, okay? And not to put that on because it is that type of technology, okay? So what the nanoparticles is basically taking a protein and putting it in a package that can be delivered. The problem early on with messenger RNA was every time they inject it, it was a protein, right? It's all about the protein. Well, remember Rocco, the albino tiger, it's still a tiger. So what happened was when they were trying to come up with this technology, they were having people having reactions because when the nanoparticles were introduced to the patients, the immune system was like, oh, no. You can't come up in here, and reacting and getting sick. So what they did was they modified the phospholipid. It's a layer of fat, just cholesterol, lipids, okay, cholesterol fat. They modified it, okay, with a substance called polyethylene glycol, which helps bind it in such a way and seal it so the immune system is not reactive. So when it gets delivered to the spot, your mailbox or cell, and gets delivered where it's supposed to go, that's all that matters. And so nanoparticles is nothing but a microscopic Amazon package to deliver the protein to the cells. And again, I can't reiterate, it's over 30 years, you all, on the research on that. This did not happen overnight. It popped up on the layman because we never heard it, but there's data on data and other diseases that are going to be worked out on this. Cancer, sickle cell, there's a whole bunch of diseases that can potentially benefit from this.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's been one of the concerns that people have asked over and over is the fact that it does seem like that. How could they possibly have developed this vaccine in this short period of time? We've only known about COVID-19 for I guess a little over a year, supposedly. And how could we get the vaccine this quickly? But the fact of you're talking about that it's been, at least 3 decades that have been working on this, and that does, I'm sure, must help people to feel better about the vaccine at this point. Let's see, there's a couple of other questions. People have talked about the vaccines, how they've been developed, but this person says she's still unclear about the difference between Johnson & Johnson, the 1 shot, and Pfizer and Moderna, which require 2 shots.
Okay, good question, excellent question. So again, we went through the home scenario, right? The Moderna and Pfizer messenger RNA, okay? So Johnson's & Johnson's, okay, uses a whole different technology, okay? Again, it's about the protein and how you package it. Because the nanoparticle technology is how you do the messenger RNA, okay? But how does Johnson & Johnson do it? somehow I got to get this DNA sequence into the cell. So what Johnson & Johnson's has done, they have used a virus, okay, encapsulated virus. And so instead of using the nanoparticles, I'm going to put this genetic sequence for the spike protein, I'm going to put it in a virus, okay? Now, I just told you how we make vaccines. This virus is dead, it's inactivated, okay? All it is just a capsule. But what we're using the adenovirus, and the adenovirus is a virus that causes a common cold, okay? But I need to get that package to you somehow. So it's like a Trojan horse, right? It comes up to the cell internalizes it, and then when it internalizes it into the cell, it takes the DNA sequence, get this, this is so important. This actually goes into the hard drive. It gets incorporated into the nucleus, but it sends a messenger RNA out to the printer to print the spike protein and then go to the surface. And then the police officers come around again and they see it. That's how the adenovirus, that's how Johnson & Johnson's work. Now, the reason why you have more side effects with the messenger RNA vaccine, because it's so potent, it's a powerful, it stimulates both what we call the B cells and T cells simultaneously. It really hits it hard. Hence the efficacy is up a little higher, okay? But it really induces immune response. The adenovirus does the same thing, but not as potent as the messenger RNA, okay? And so Johnson & Johnson's, that's their delivery system. But so far, it looks very good with the 1 shot versus 2. It's a game changer. It really is.
Yeah, because I think many times people, will want to go ahead and do that first one, but then life happens and we don't get around to making an appointment for that second one. But it's so very important that when we have that first injection, to make sure you put it on your calendar, that indeed you need to call in, well, actually go online and register for that second shot so that you'll get it in those 21 days or 28 days, whichever is required for you. So that's very, very important. Got another question is, what's your knowledge of treating COVID with interferon, Maximmune, or using it to prevent COVID?
Yeah, I don't have any knowledge based on that. So I don't, yeah. The biologics and I don't. So I would not have knowledge based on treating directly with that. So yeah.
Appreciate that. Okay. Are there other questions? If anyone else has some additional questions, there's a little thing down there. You can put your hand up, or I can see some of you. If you want to put your hand up, if there's any other thing, can a patient request which manufacturer product, which of the vaccines they want to use?
Yeah, I know. and yeah, so you can't, if it's Moderna in your area, please go ahead and get it. If it's Pfizer in your area, please go ahead and get it. Everybody's, doc, I want that 94, 95. Don't give me that 80. Don't give me that Johnson's. No, those are still effective. Basically, FDA wise, you want something at least 50 and above, at least, And the other thing you have to take in consideration too is the percentages of effectiveness with Pfizer and Moderna happened early on during the pandemic. Johnson & Johnson's data is currently right now in the pandemic, in which we have resistant strands. So that percentage is tweaked just a little bit, okay? So 90 is not an A, 80 is not a B, okay? They're both very, very effective. And also remember, both 3 of these vaccines are 100% ineffective of you not going to the ICU and being on the ventilator. That's key. That is so key when we look at that.
Someone was asking again, share the importance for African Americans to participate in the trials. I think you talked about the trials for the other 2. I don't know about Johnson & Johnson, but the trials, my understanding at this point, the trials are over. They're out there for us to take. So are there additional trials that are going on at this point?
There are, and it's a day-to-day routine. I mean, currently right now, Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson's are now decreasing their age of limitation on the, because currently right now it's 16 and above, at least for Moderna and Pfizer. But Moderna and Pfizer have now extended trials currently right now, 12 years of age and up to 18 years of age, or 12 years and up. It's called age de-escalation. Basically what happens is they institute another trial, see what happens, and they take it down even lower, okay? And so currently that's currently what they're doing right now. So as of right now, the trials are at 12 years and up, okay? And then you also have some other sub-trials encouraged by NMA, of course, looking at autoimmune and lupus, okay? Looking at HIV. And there's even in that letter, you'll see they are pushing for sickle cell, okay? And so again, just different examples of, unless we're in it or have a voice, we need to be there. And so I'd encourage people to look into trials and get involved. But again, be full in knowledge about it, okay? Read about it, all the questions, talk, because we need to be involved, okay? But at the same time, we have a right to ask the questions and be skeptical, right? Our history and culture has shown us that.
Oh, it's wonderful. One of the ladies said that her daughter is in the Johnson & Johnson trial at NKU.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's great. That's great.
Okay. Because we realize that, they're talking about 18 and over, or I guess it's 16 and over, but we realize that our little grandbabies are coming along. Your children who are much younger than that, and realizing that, yes, indeed, children did get COVID-19.
Right.
And so we need to make sure that we are protecting our young from COVID. And, it would be great if we could get to the point that we would have vaccines for the younger children. Of course, and the most important thing is getting to herd immunity for all of us.
Right.
And that in itself will certainly help our children. So,
yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Most definitely.
All right. And other questions, other comments? Well, unless there are, I will say to you, Dr. Gilliam, thank you so very much for coming on to talk with us this evening. As we know, this has been recorded, and okay, I see that Reverend Brown wants to say something as well. We do realize it will be recorded, and I'm so very thankful for you to do this. Reverend Brown, you or Rita have something to say?
Yes, what I want to say is that I felt led to pursue this avenue to get this information, more importantly, to our Black community. A few weeks ago, I kept seeing news articles about how Blacks in their population were dying at 3 times the rate of everyone else, and Hispanics also per population. And at the same time, so many people that we knew were very apprehensive about taking this vaccine. So what I really wanted to do, and what you have done very well, is that to get the information out there to bring light to where people maybe areas of that address the apprehensions that we have had as a people and not taking the vaccine and why we should. And you have certainly brought a level of education to this, not only to this virus, but to the medical profession and from the beginning even to now. So that is very, that has brought a lot of light to me to be able to express to others and to help relate why they should take this. And I thank you so much for agreeing to allow us to record this. And there'll certainly be avenues that we want to make sure that people that wasn't here to see this will be able to address it, be able to access it. And I encourage everyone that is on this virtual this evening to, Brother John Black is going to give that information. And I encourage you to follow up on that and send it to all of your contacts, because we need this information. This is information that we're not going to see on the evening news. And thank you so much for allowing to comment and to sharing and addressing us and really bringing a level of education, not just to this vaccine and this virus, but to the, you know, to the medical profession and what it's done in the history of dealing with epidemics and pandemics. And so it has certainly brought a lot of light to this issue. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And again, I want to thank Reverend Brown for spearheading this, because he was the one that said, he kept saying, now, Sister Betty, can't you find somebody to do something about this? So I am very happy that Dr. Gilliam, that you were able to come on and talk with us and provide us with this informational presentation tonight. Someone from Montgomery County was on as well. So I thank you again. And if there's anyone else that has anything else to say.
Sister Betty?
Yes.
So this is John. Reverend Brown mentioned that we were going to record, which we did. And I just want to be able to share some information. I'm going to share my screen to share some information to let everyone on this call know how they can gain access to the recorded session that took place tonight. And I would echo Dr. Gilliam. Thanks on behalf of our branch and everyone that's in attendance tonight. It was an outstanding presentation, very informative. I love your approach to educating. Makes the difficult and complex topics seem very simple. So very much appreciate that. So if everyone would just, those that have video on, if you'll keep focused on your screen, I'm going to put the information up. Basically, what we need for you to do is to send an email to the NAACP email account indicating that you would like a copy of this presentation. And if you provide your name and your email, and you see the email account there, naacp.richmondky@yahoo.com. So as those requests come into our email account, we will process those and provide the link back to you in terms of being able to view this video, this session again. And so feel free to share this information with others who may have not had the opportunity to attend tonight. And we will process those requests as they come in. And Dr. Gilliam, thank you so much for allowing us to record it.
And if there's anything, and ever changing, Reverend Brown, even other topics within the African American, just anything, please reach out to me. To God be the glory. This is reasonable service. It is something that's dear to my heart. But definitely as this pandemic changes, knowledge is power. And I just want to encourage everybody who's viewing, do what your ancestors could not do. Be the voice that they wish they had. Be the stewardship of what God has given you, your health and strength, and step to the plate and let's change the narrative by asking the questions, by being more knowledgeable about it. Okay. And so by doing that, again, I can't emphasize that once we have more knowledge of the prescription that's being told to us, then that's when the disparities come down. But the power is in our hands to do that. And so knowledge is power, and so I just encourage everybody to ask those questions, But yeah, as things change, we will be more informative and to get the word out. Okay. So yes, thank you all. God bless. Thank you all for having me.
God bless. Thank you.
you.
Thanks so much
Well,
for attending.
Let me
Thanks,
say
Jay,
one
for
other thing.
moderating.
We certainly will take you up on your offer.
No,
I know there's a lot of other things that will be coming up, and maybe at some time there may need to be some follow-up on this.
possibly.
Even personal, my son, you are his doctor, and he has been encouraging me to consider
Who's your
looking at-
well, hey, now wait a minute. You can't now, Reverend Brown, man, you can't be doing no HIPAA violations on here, man.
Well, I'm just saying,
All right, man. I will just leave it at that, man. Okay. I don't
he's been encouraging me to.
no, that's okay. I'm just I
There's
feel like we're family. Everybody, hey,
Hey, we're all family. We're all family. There's at least
So-
one other person in the church that you might also see.